Mikal Bridges has been traded to the New York Knicks for 5 first-round picks and Bojan Bogdanovic. But first reaction of this trade, are the Knicks improved to being a contender?
Yes, what they did last season and then in the postseason as well, if it wasn't for injuries, they probably would have been playing the Boston Celtics. 4 buddies that have somewhat chemistry together already from college days. You're adding in a guy that we in our Spurs video said should be targeting, who Brooklyn was not willing to trade, somehow was willing to trade within the division and the city.
Within the city.
Right? In Mikal Bridges, who's a 3-and-D monster. And he's going to have a fair share of the ball. Like, Jalen Brunson is emerging into that superstar role. Question is, how good is your 1 and 2? Jalen Brunson has kind of shown it, but you need a guy like Mikal Bridges to help you. Julius Randle is where the question mark will be. But yes, I think they're contenders because they're kind of like the Minnesota Timberwolves of the East now.
Yeah. So
and even in my opinion, a little bit better.
They have a 1 in Jalen Brunson because he's shown that he is performed in the playoffs. We'll give credit to Brunson. I think the first player in a long ass time to have like 3 straight 40-point games essentially in the first round against the 76ers, where he struggled in games 1 and 2 and just came out of nowhere. The issue with the Knicks is that a lot runs through Brunson, right? It's an easy defensive game plan that the Pacers had. To shut down the Knicks, you gotta slow down Brunson. And that's kind of what the focus was. But now when you add Mikal Bridges, a guy, yes, he's a 3-and-D, but he's also a guy who could get his own shot too sometimes. Same with Dante DiVincenzo, same with Josh Hart. The issue isn't the talent with the Knicks, the issue is injuries and Tom Thibodeau. Are you gonna run these guys to the ground in the regular season, playing them 40 minutes a night essentially, just to get into the playoffs and then ruin their playoff chances because they're going to be injured? That's the main concern with the New York Knicks right now.
We know he's not gonna. Like,
Exactly.
He's still gonna stick to it.
But that is a concern.
That is a concern. The only way that will ever happen is if like they're winning by a lot. But the problem is this Knicks team isn't built like a team that will be like the Boston Celtics, who might blow teams out of the water in the first 3 quarters and then chill. Right? They're not like that. That's something I still think Tom needs to figure out and learn. To your other point, yes, Mikal Bridges shown that when he's a number 1 option what he can be, but him as a number 1 option, we've seen there's a very low ceiling for that, for championship standards. So we saw what his role with the the Suns was, and that was coming in like as in a rookie, second year, third year. Right?
Yeah, he's a young guy.
So I agree with that. Like, he could get his own shot and stuff, but I don't think that will be essentially his role there.
It's not his role.
So that's still a little concerning to me, to your point about Jalen Brunson, easy to game plan, especially when Julius Randle isn't there. And even with Julius Randle, like at times we've questioned what he is.
Can he clutch up?
Yeah, exactly, right? So in that sense, I still think they need to go get another guy. They were linked to Paul George, right? I don't know if they still are, because Philly's out of it.
A lot of assets were given up in this trade.
Well, Paul George is also a free agent.
That's true.
So it depends on if he declines his option or not. Yeah. But the thing is, I think they need another guy like Paul George, minimum level, to get the pressure off Brunson. But if that's the case, Randle is going to get traded. So if the question mark for me is Randle, essentially.
Yeah, so if you're looking for that, you're necessarily not adding another defender. You're trying to add another scorer.
Yes,
essentially.
Yeah,
that's fair. But now the question comes with Mikal Bridges, how do the Knicks rank in the East? Follow-up question essentially is kind of similar. Do the Knicks have a better chance of being the Celtics, or do the Bucks have a better chance of being the Celtics?
You got to throw in a healthy Embiid and the Sixers as well. I'm not going to discredit what he has done. That's a tough one. When Giannis is healthy, I'm not going against him. And Dame admitted that he came into the season out of shape because he knew he was going to get traded, so he didn't want to risk getting hurt, right? So obviously you're going to have a more motivated Dame in this offseason as well. So I'm still going to give the Bucks the star power. They need to address defenders for sure. That's the main thing, I think. Because they lost Jrue Holiday for Damian Lillard, substituting offense for defense at that point. And we saw what Jrue Holiday did with the Celtics, right? So I'm still going to give the edge to the Bucks because it's unfair to judge them without Giannis in the playoffs.
So I do agree with you. So the Celtics 1, Bucks 2. I'm going with the Knicks at 3.
Yeah.
Ahead of the 76ers. Just because, 1, the Knicks beat the 76ers, and the Knicks were horrible themselves as well in that series. So there's no excuses for the Sixers and Embiid. And overall, we've seen Embiid choke in the playoffs, aka was it last year or 2 seasons ago? Whatever it was, he hasn't shown out.
He's been injured himself in playoff time as well.
And in the one time he was healthy, he didn't show up in that game 7, I believe, against the Celtics. Was it last year?
Not just the Celtics, it was against the Hawks, but that was a little bit of Ben Simmons as well. That was the downturn of Ben Simmons.
But so for that reason, I'm having the Knicks at 3 because we've seen the Knicks do something in the playoffs now.
Yeah.
And overall, personally, I think you're gonna agree with this too. The Knicks I think are the better matchup for the Celtics in terms of
defense.
They could match up against the Boston Celtics better than the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks can match the Celtics scoring, but I don't think they can match them defensively.
Depends, right? It depends because Giannis is still an all-world defender.
Yeah, but
so
that's
one of the two Jays will get isolated. Are there 4 contenders in the East? Would you give the Sixers the?
I'll give the Sixers the respect because I give Embiid his respect. He's a baller, right? He's been performing well. Injuries are the main cause for him, and obviously now Sixers being off of the Tobias Harris contract should give them an opportunity to add a few pieces themselves.
Yeah.
And it'll be disappointing if they don't do that this offseason.
So my question, so yeah, I agree with you.
So I agree with the ranking.
Defensively match up there.
I agree with the ranking, but in terms of like facing the Celtics, I think the Knicks have the edge on defense, but the Bucks have the edge on offense.
So so this is my question to you now. What's the risk? Because if Celtics by far are by far the first team in the East, what they have shown. We both agree that it's the Bucks, and we still don't know if it's the Knicks or the Sixers, and then right below them it's probably the Cavs or Pacers. On top of my head, right. Giving away 5 first-round picks, you're essentially going all in, and this is a guy who isn't the guy. Just put it that way.
But you kind of already have the guy.
True, and that's fair. But we saw the Clippers do that, and look where they are.
Yeah,
we kind of saw what the Nets themselves did a few back in 20.
Yeah, no, but the Nets 13, didn't have like anything surrounding.
14?
The Nets didn't have anything surrounding them.
No, with the I'm talking about the Kevin Garnett one.
Yeah, still old guys. That didn't really have much depth after that.
Fair. Okay, so how much is the pressure to win now? Because let's just say it doesn't work out, you don't have your assets anymore.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, you have multiple years. It doesn't necessarily have to be right now. Like they're in right now. They're all in right now. They have an opportunity to win right now. But they have a year after. They have the next year and the year after that.
Listen, Knicks fans.
You should be happy.
It should be happy, right? You guys are being aggressive. Yeah. You guys are going for it. He's one of the best role players in the NBA right now.
100%, yeah. He's up there. Like Mikal Bridges is a stud in the Nets.
But
the Nets have every right to ask for that much as well because he was their main trade piece. So now we covered the Knicks part of the trade and how the Knicks shape up in the East. But now we got to cover what does this mean for the guy they already had and their in-season acquisition in OG Anunoby. It means that OG Anunoby signed a 5-year, $212 million contract, giving the Knicks the best defensive wing pairing in the NBA. OG and Bridges are 2 of the best 3-and-D players in the NBA, and now with Josh Hart, New York have 3 players that can guard anyone's best player. As mentioned before, the Knicks have 2 main issues: Tom Thibodeau running his players into the ground and scoring depth after Jalen Brunson. But nonetheless, the Knicks are still contenders in the East. The Brooklyn Nets, on the other hand, finally kickstarted their rebuild, and now all eyes are on Cam Johnson and where he will end up this offseason.